been building up ever since we started this, you know, and so now it's done. You know, it's kind of like I feel like we've been putting a wedding together and this is the wedding day, you know, and so it's that same build-up of anticipation that had to come out somehow.
The recognition of a place like the Royal Ontario Museum and the fact that an institution of this caliber is recognizing Izzy's work and is willing to showcase it in such a beautiful way, you can't do better than that.
There's a lot of obstacles that Canadian designers have, and I think it's really great that I can shine a light on the work that I'm doing right now. It was such a departure from what I was doing before that I think a lot of people were wondering, like, what is she doing? And I didn't care.
I'm very tall, so it was always difficult for me to find pants. I mean, off the rack was really not an option. I made a dress in home ec class that I loved. Brown, patterned, short sleeves. I felt pretty in it. When I was first in the hospital, one of the things I was wondering was, what could I possibly wear? The bullet hit the side of my neck and shattered my spine, and then the pieces of the bone pressed in on my spinal cord, which caused paralysis. The first outfit that I had was a sweatsuit that had been sort of cut open, and I mean, it was horrible.
I was a very physically active guy. I loved being outside. One of my favorite sports was mountain biking. I was just graduated from school and living a dream and riding my bike every day. I came up short on a big jump, and in a split second, I left that life and was all of a sudden introduced to a world that's not well suited to someone who uses a wheelchair. With that came a lot of physical barriers, and one of those physical barriers was clothing. I had it stuck in my head that I could still wear the same clothing that I wore in the past, and I really, really wanted to hold on to that part of my life.
We dressed Angelina Jolie, Jennifer Lopez, Mark Wahlberg. And sometimes it wasn't the A-listers that we were working with, it was the guy who was playing the security guard, and he was 400 pounds. Or it was a music video where they hired all these dwarfs. The film work taught me a ton that I would have never got in the fashion world.
I had decided that I really needed a warm winter cape of some sort. And I approached one of my colleagues at the Toronto Star and said I wanted to get a shearling cape made, and could she recommend somebody who could make me a custom piece.
She had asked the fashion editor where she could go to get her cape made, and the fashion editor recommended me because of my work in leather.
So I called Izzy and went into her studio, which remarkably had no steps.
I had no idea that someone in a wheelchair had clothing issues. I'd never worked with someone in a wheelchair or someone with her level of injury, so it was very educational right from the start.
Izzy started talking about doing a line, but in my mind I was thinking, that can't happen.
I got Barb to put a little focus group together for me. So including herself, there was 4 women. Everybody spoke freely about clothes, what they like, what they don't like, their problems, their solutions, their issues. By the end of the night, I was so confused, and I thought that there's no way I can do this.
The variety of body types and needs seemed to me to be so varied. So I really felt that I was just humoring her by putting her in touch with other people and thinking, well, you know, she'll figure out that it can't be done and that'll all go away.
I just have never been able to even consider buying a trench coat before. If you're sitting all day and you're sitting on a coat, it's not the most comfortable thing to be sitting on. It can be slippery, and trench coats tend to be fitted, and I have a lot of spasticity in my upper body.
Who would have ever thought that clothing could be life-threatening? You sit down in clothing that's tailored for someone who stands. They bunch up in areas that you don't want. And over the course of a day, if you have those areas, that can be a real issue for someone without feeling in those areas, and can lead to some serious problems, like pressure sores.
We have to be careful with skin integrity, so making sure that there's not extra bulk or wrinkles that can cause a pressure sore very quickly in a matter of hours.
For somebody in my situation that doesn't have sensation, that can be life-threatening.
Give me some excuse to leave the substance of this life.
I wouldn't have guessed that by reimagining patterns that they can actually apply to a wide variety of needs.
I was hit with the solution to how I can create a collection, what that common thread was that linked all these people together. We're dealing with a seated body as opposed to a standing body. And it was from that point on that I created Is Adaptive. Our coats are cut to follow the line of a seated person. So at the back, the length of the back just reaches the back of the chair. The sides just reach the side of the chair, but at the front, you have the length that you need. A lot of people tend to feel very cold on their lap, and they tend to wear short jackets, but by being able to wear a coat, you can cover your lap and stay warm and dry.
When I finally got a chance to meet Izzy and go into her boutique and sort of see the work that she did, I realized for the first time at 24 years old that, now I can have a trench coat and it can fit the way that it's supposed to fit.
We also have a coat that separates in the back. Your right side would be put on, your left side would be put on, and it makes dressing extremely easy. Also for the people that are helping them get dressed.
I don't have to be manipulated as much as if I were wearing a regular coat. And so all of a sudden that awkwardness has left, and it just makes for a much more pleasant experience.
So the way pants normally behave is that they'll ride down at the back when you're seated. With our pants, they're lying flat and there's no pressure against your belly. And at the back, they don't pull down because you have enough length at the back, so they stay at your waist as opposed to want to pull down.
I've been given an opportunity to have a wardrobe that looks normal in a seated position. I tend to wear Izzy's pants all the time. That's the drastic change when a product that is designed to suit your needs, that all of a sudden that your quality of life just goes through the roof.
Since my injury, I'm wearing a skirt for the first time.
It just goes beyond the clothes, giving someone their own personality back, giving them sense of self, and it's all about inclusion. There just hasn't been anything like this.
I would never have guessed that she could create this much that would be so useful and so beautiful.
My why does fashion have to be so difficult for people in wheelchairs who have different kinds of disabilities or mobility issues? It's because we've created it for standing people, not for sitting people. And Izzy has sort of rethought this, and it seems so obvious when you say that. But if it was so obvious, why didn't people do it before, you know? It's the concept of what she's doing that I think is incredibly important. The patterns were really intriguing to me because they reminded me of historical patterns, the way they were cut to allow a man to sit astride a horse, sit down, stand up, and of course look good. She'd sort of gone back 400 years without even knowing, because the body she's dealing with is a seated body.
I'm so happy that there is this focus on Izzy's work, because she's made an enormous contribution to the disability community.
It's personality, it's function, it's how you live your life. That's part of all of us.
To be able to have this here and now in Canada is very special. I think it's just the gratitude and the depth of what all this means to the people that I do work for.
As a person with a disability, this is what I live to see people become aware of my struggles and to become sensitive to them, because the world is not designed for a person in a wheelchair. But it's nice now that we have some clothes that are.